The eyes of College Game Day are upon you as we come to you live from Jerry World in Dallas. Alabama versus USC is the marquee game this week, but don't think that this is the lone star in this slate of games, lest you be left of a Texas-sized hangover from too much Texas tea as teams try to prove their Fort Worth and put a dent in the national championship hopes of their Week 1 opponents. This is week 1 of what is sure to be a huge ton of incredible games that are anything but Plano. We are back, baby. College football is back.
Kick off y'all's College Game Day. We're coming to your city. If you want a little thing in your yin-yang, if you want a little zing in your zang-zang, if you want a little ching in your chang-chang, come along. Yeah, we're coming. We're coming. Coming.
Look at this scene. Yes, it's a hot time in the Old Town tonight as the Crimson Tide of Alabama take on the Trojans of Southern California in what has been described as a football game that is definitely happening. We've got a great slate of games this week, starting with a game right down the road in a battle of future Liberty coaches as Joseph Aguafresca takes on Big Dave Aranda. Yes, the late 20-somethings of Oxford are conflicted as they've really centered their $1,500 a month townhome around the decorative stylings of the Heart and Hand Target exclusive Magnolia collaboration, but they've traded in their stoneware mug that reads, "Actually I Can," for a red solo cup full of their hopes and dreams, thinking back to a senior year when their husband Jackson decided to take a gap year before heading off to law school. But that gap year turned into a gap life, and we don't mean the worldwide clothing and accessories retail store. Or do we? But here in Dallas, Texas, it's all about the Crimson Tide, who face a stout Pac-12 team on the opening day of the season. The Pac-12 in a conference game on the opening day never goes well. I actually just checked the stats on this, and their record is deceptively good, but it's usually like Oregon playing Nebraska or like Washington up against Boston College, the fearsome Boston College Eagles. But we love any and all college football, especially since it seems so dire for all of this year. On our first of very serious notes, COVID-19 looked to disrupt our entire way of life and caused our world to come to a standstill in March of 2020. But we Americans came together for the good of one another. Our leadership responded instantly with clear and consistent messaging, a robust contract tracing protocol, a partial defunding of police departments to put money towards healthcare workers, PPE, extensive testing for every American, and a paid leave program financed by the government to allow those affected to appropriately isolate, get tested, or provide care for those who are high risk, as well as providing low or no interest loans to companies affected by supply chain disruptions. And we also need to acknowledge the great strength of these universities, who recognize that magical thinking and wishing that the virus would just disappear was not a viable option. Therefore, collaborating with continuing studies and extensive e-learning programs to deliver a multimodal learning experience for all students, while still providing digital social programming and a bespoke educational experience instead of allowing the flattening effect of digital learning to produce uninspired educators and students through faulty technology. Anyway, enough of that good news, let's take it down a notch. The spirit of competition is full of sacrifice, to perform selfless acts in the search for self-glory. It's that sacrifice that molds character, but at what cost? Tom Rinaldi has more. In the words of poet and University of Texas San Antonio Roadrunner fan Selena Gomez, the heart wants what it wants. But what happens when that heartache turns to heartburn? It was a chance that Tuscaloosa resident Bo Hicks had to take. The year was 2007. The Crimson Tide had a new coach, a new system, and a new fire lit under their already hungry fan base. But an old foe had come to town. It was a crisp, late October day, and the Tennessee Volunteers were fresh off of a victory against the Mississippi State Bulldogs and entered the top 25 at 6-2. But it wasn't the only athletic feat occurring that fateful third Saturday in October. Across from Bryant-Denny Stadium, the Quad was hosting its own world-class competition.
The Thursday before the 2007 Tennessee game, it's always around my birthday, I read about the Crystal Square-Off to where you could qualify to compete against Joey Chestnut himself, noted haver of the mustard yellow belt. You know, I'd always dreamed about being able to really take my game to the next level and really be there.
And compete at the next level he did, defeating everyone in the Tuscaloosa Regional, setting up an epic clash against Joey Chestnut.
This happened before kickoff of the Tennessee game, so I was tending bar at Egan's at the time, and I had to convince Billa, the bartender at the time, to cover just by herself while I went to the Quad. Whoever Joey Chestnut's handler was obviously did not anticipate the amount of traffic and gridlock, so he was very late. I think about 45 minutes. We're standing there and I just start dripping sweat. I'm worried about letting Billa down. I'm hearing other professional eaters talk. I was, new to the game. And Joey gets there. They give us a really over-the-top announcement, and I've been lucky enough to play in bands and play in front of people, but I've never been more nervous and afraid than I was. Then I line up and I give it my all, and I eat 24 in 7 minutes. Joey Chestnut eats 80. And so I feel really defeated, but I have to run from the Quad all the way back to Egan's, full sprint. And I get there, and when I open the doors, the disappointment and the discomfort and a near reversal of fate, which is what they call vomiting in the competitive eating circuit, almost hits me all at the same time. And I have to apologize, and I managed to sit down, collect my thoughts, and rally, and I came back and I tended bar for the rest of that day. And I did it for me because I needed a redemption song for what happened to me. And I did it, and it was tough, but I made it. And that is one thing that makes me the person I am today, to learn that perseverance and that struggle to really find a way to get back on top and to never give up.
Wow, what an amazing story. Alabama went on to win that game 41-17, with Nick Saban calling an onside kick on the opening kickoff. There are freshmen in high school who have never seen Tennessee beat Alabama. There are Vol dads who have promised their crying, dumb Vol children that they didn't get them this year, but next year the game is in Neyland, and Derek Dooley and the boys are going to get the job done. Alabama has made liars out of so many Brentwood fathers. Joey Chestnut went on to exemplify American exceptionalism and lean hard into furthering Japanese hot dog xenophobia, and Bo Hicks went on to found Druid City Brewing Company. The Crystal on McFarland Boulevard went through a beautiful remodel in 2019 and is still the prime place to take your game day mistress to after a quick romp at the Masters Inn, the sleepiest pineapple under the sun. College Game Day, live from Dallas, Texas, is built by the Home Depot. Home Depot, where people have been making false equivalence logical fallacy arguments comparing a hardware store to being in a classroom since March. Let's devalue your property together. Wow. What do we have here? Oh, is this a cheese stick? Man, someone get David Pollock over here so he can silently judge and loudly judge our eating habits. You gotta get in on this. It is time for our Saturday selections, brought to you by Pizza Hut. You know what? Screw Pizza Hut. We didn't have a Pizza Hut in our town until 1992, so I never got to participate in the Book It program. And that's all I did as a kid, was read books. I spent 12 hours a week after school at the Three Bridges Library. The teenagers in Christopher Pike books aren't gonna murder themselves. You gotta turn those pages, baby. Our guest picker is a multiple-time champion, competed all over the world. She's a graduate of a university that has absolutely nothing to do with the two teams playing. She has a degree in kinesiology and hot dogs, It's Summer the Greyhound. Summer, so good to have you here. Let's get right to the picks. First up is Missouri State versus Oklahoma. Bobby Petrino has had more lives than that kitty cat across the street that torments you. Who you got? Yeah, I agree. Oklahoma, big. The aforementioned non-Memphis Liberty Bowl and another set of Bears, Baylor versus Ole Miss. Yeah, I agree. Slow start by both teams. I think Baylor has enough players coming back to pull away late, at least until both teams get slammed by sanctions. A rematch of the greatest football game of all time, the 2018 Cheez-It Bowl, TCU versus California. The Bears looked real good in that Week 0 tune-up game against UNLV. That absolutely happened. And I'd like to give a shout out to my godson's football team, the Golden Bears. So Cal, easily. Summer, you're calling the North Dakota State-Oregon game, so we're going to skip over that one. So let's move on to Michigan versus Washington in what is year 28 of Jim Harbaugh's time at Michigan. For me, Jimmy Lake is the name of a guy who's trying to get you to commit vendor fraud, and I'm pretty sure that Jim Harbaugh has actually committed vendor fraud, so advantage Michigan. And finally, the game that everyone has been waiting for, USC versus Alabama. Unbelievable. What a great morning we've had. Enjoy the games that are definitely happening.
We're coming to your city. We rolled right through Death Valley, Boomer Sooner and Giga Maggies, threw our Longhorns up in Austin along the way. We rolled Tide Road through Alabama, hit 'em hard at the farm in Stanford, put our hands up for the War Eagle on the plains. Rocked the big house in the Gator Swamp, fighting Irish in the tomahawk chop, fight on USC, the Buckeyes, and Georgia Dogs. Check it out.